Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh. Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. And enough respect to the brothers out there pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, I just wanted to do a quick lesson on the book of Micah, the 3rd chapter, the whole chapter. It's a very short one, so it's going to be very quick, Lord willing, and Lord willing, be edifying. So, Micah chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "And I said, Hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel." Right? And as we're reading along, it's good practice to apply, this to modern times, right? Whenever you read of the judgment of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, or anything that displeases the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it's best practice to put yourself in that stead, right? And so it's easier to relate, or in other words, it's easier for you to value what's being said, right? So it says, I said, and I said, Here, I pray you, O heads of Jacob. Now this is a continuation from the Micah 1st and 2nd chapter, where Micah pretty much condemns the northern tribe, right? And he lists their iniquities, and then he promises, and he says that the Lord has promised to bring in a nation to destroy them, right? And that they're going to be scattered from the land, and that the land that they are in right now is not really whereas it was supposed to be their rest, it's not going to be their rest anymore. It was going to surely destroy them. And that's how we ended up being scattered throughout the four corners of the world. And so it says, I pray, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. So, now the judgment isn't just about Israel as a whole, but, to these heads also. Because these heads are the ones that are leading people astray. A lot of these camps out here that are not preaching the truth of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, even if they may have the zeal, because they're not giving the proper knowledge to the sheep, they are literally causing people to go astray. And you can tell these wicked leaders by how they merchandise the truth, right? How they move about and how they create an organization that is mainly, built on money, right? It's like the scripture says, it is filthy lucracy. Okay, it says, and ye princes of the house of Israel, is enough for you to know judgment, right? Because the main point of view, if the Spirit of the Lord is upon you, right, and you hear this word, and you hear this truth, and you have a zeal to serve the Lord, all you're concerning about is the truth and the judgment of the Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You preach and you edify the people to understand the will of the Lord and understand the judgment of the Lord, so that they may move properly, and please the Lord, and even save their own lives, right? And save their lives in doing so. Let me put it that way. So it says, who hate the good and love evil, who pluck off their skin from off them, and their flesh from off their bones, who eat the flesh of my people, and flay their skin from off of them, and break their bones, right? And this is likened unto what? When you kill a fowl, and a chicken, a turkey, a guinea fowl, a quail, what you do is you just pluck off the feathers, and then what you would you just kind of prepare it. You start chopping into pieces and cutting and putting it into a pot and a cauldron. You add some, it's like, and that's pretty much what the Lord is. That's what the Lord sees when he see a man taking advantage of the people, a man in power, or a man who has influence take advantage of people who look up to them, right? And when they do so in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, and it says, who also eat the flesh of my people, and flay their skin from off of them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot, and as flesh within a cauldron. Then shall they cry unto the Lord Yahweh, but he will not hear them, because the day of reckoning is come. That's why the scripture talks about the day of the Lord It's against let me see. Right. Revelations the 19th chapter, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them. Let me just go into it right now. To the same chapter. Right. So this is the judgment of the Lord. Right. When Yahushua comes, his vesture shall be dipped in blood. In other words, Yahushua is going to do a lot of killing. But the judgment from Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, it's going to be from kings all the way to what? Peasants, right? All the way to what? Those that are small, all the way to those that are bound, right? In prison. So no one is going to be safe from the judgment of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. That's why a lot of these leaders out there, they see themselves as being immune to what is right in the eyes of the Lord. Now here it is. That's why the scriptures call them hypocrites, because that is something. What's the word? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Whenever someone is put in power, whenever he has people looking up to him, he gets puffed up. That's naturally what the flesh does. They get puffed up, and if you're not rooted in the truth of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you start going off. You start not using the name of the Lord. You start selling Hebrew prayers and all this, that, and the third. You start to think yourself as a god when you are just a mere man, right? A worm in the eyes of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And so you start separating yourself from the natural, the natural like ordinances of for judgment, right? So, but the Lord is making a direct, the scriptures, every single, more often than not, it makes, how do you say, it makes sure the prophets, when they receive a vision from the Lord, so like for that, when the prophets receive a vision from the Lord, they make sure that every aspect of every, social class is aware of the judgment of the Lord. Right, that's it. It doesn't matter if you're rich, your money is not going to save you. That's why the scripture says that what? Riches profiteth not in the day of salvation. Okay, so it says what? They shall cry unto the Lord, but he will not hear them. He will even hide his face from them at that time, as they have behaved themselves ill in their doings. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning the priests that make my people err, that bite with their teeth and cry peace. Now what this means is that, they're only concerned about the sacrifices that people bring to the temple, because that's how they eat. When you give them, so in a sense, when you bribe them is when they're happy with you. They're not concerned about judgment. You can be a wicked person, but if you bring them something for them to what? For them to, put their, for them to chew on, bite down on with their teeth, they will proclaim peace unto you. Whereas when the scripture specifically forbade men to pervert justice because of what? Because of money, because of bribe, because of reward, right? And he that putteth not into their mouth. So anyone that is not able to bribe them, right? They even prepare war against him. They try to destroy him. Therefore, night shall be unto you, and ye shall not have a vision. The Lord is going to take his spirit from off of them. Not that they had the spirit anyway, but what that means is that the Lord is going to humble them in like, I guess, he's going to humble them by taking that even which they have. That little bit of dignity, that little bit of knowledge that they have, even though it may not be 100%, it may not be according to the spirit, but he will turn them into fools. So whatever it is in them physically that people look up to, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua will destroy that image, and that symbol will be taken away, and the people are going to see them as what? Nothing more than base men. And it shall be dark unto you, that ye shall not that ye shall not divine, and the sun shall go down over the prophets, and the day shall be dark over them. Then shall seers be ashamed, and the diviners confounded. Yea, they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer of God. Right? So these are all false prophets, and the Lord is going to make a fool of them. All right? So much so that they won't even be able to lie. Right? Because the Lord is going to just make it. Every lie that they try to say will only will only make them look more foolish. That's why you have these camps out here. They ain't trying to push the mark of the beast, but when they see the chip getting closer and closer, right, and being manifested to be nothing else but the mark of the beast, now they're trying to be slick about it. But the more they lie, the more they are ashamed, and the more they are ashamed, right, the more they are humbled. But a lot of these guys out there refuse to be humbled. That's why the Lord is going to have to ultimately destroy them. You have these people out here who the Lord exposed to be profane like Esau, right? Just only for them to come back a few weeks later and start talking shit all over again. Verse 8, it says, "But truly I am full of power by the Spirit of the Lord Yahweh, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob, and princes of the house of Israel, that abhor judgment and pervert all equity." Right? Equity in the sense that everyone is treated equally. They build up. Let's prove that. Everyone is put in a situation where they can be leveled. Yep. Straight level. So, uprightness. All right. So, it means they have a level mindset, right? They don't pervert judgment, and they don't bend the law this way or that way. They keep it as is. They keep it straight. They build up Zion with blood, and Jerusalem with iniquity. The heads thereof judge for reward. And if it's not even difficult to apply this to today's time, because while you have these leaders out here, so-called leaders out here, that are not necessarily performing blood sacrifice or actually killing people, what they're doing is that they have set people on a path of destruction. So ultimately, what they're doing is they're building with blood, right? But obviously, it's not going to stand. The Lord is going to destroy it. The heads thereof judge for reward, and the priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof divine for money. Yet will they lean upon the Lord Yahweh, and say, "Is not the Lord Yahweh among us? None evil shall come upon us." So they deceive themselves, right? Therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountains of the house of the highs, and the mountains of the house as the high places of the forest. So he's going to throw down everything that these men have built, right? So, that was it on the book of Micah, the 3rd chapter. Lord willing, I hope this is edifying. I'm going to end it by giving our praise and glory to Yahweh. Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachak Wadash, Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Shabrak Atham.